Hey guys, welcome back to While You Were Cleaning. Today I have 4 new fall DIYs to share with you. Each of these DIYs I think will add a little bit more of a cozy feeling to whatever room you put them in, and that was the goal for today's video. So I hope that these DIYs are very helpful for you. And another thing I wanted to mention was all of these DIYs could be adapted to be used throughout the year. They don't necessarily have to be for fall. So I hope that you enjoy today's video. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll get started with these DIYs. For this first DIY, I'll be using 2 of these 10-inch wood pieces that I found recently at Dollar Tree. If you can't find these in your stores, you could also use a pack of the wooden rulers. So these are a little bit rough on the edges, so I went ahead and took some sandpaper and just smoothed off anything that might give me splinters, just making sure that all the edges were nice and smooth. I did do this to both of the pieces of wood and also both sides of them. From this multi-pack of paper, I found these cardstock pieces that have a white side on them, so I'm going to be using those. You can also just use regular cardstock paper and then just cut it to size. And then I'll also be using some of these poster stickers. I like the nice chunky letters here, and they'll work really well for this project. I'll be doing Happy Fall for the wording, but you could change that up, do Hello Fall, Hello Autumn. It just depends on what you can get to fit in the length of the wood pieces that you are using. So you might need some longer wood pieces, maybe go to the hardware store instead in order to do some of those longer words. And of course you could change up the wording and do this something not fall related as well. I spaced all of these letters evenly from the bottom of the paper, and then I left a space in between each of the letters as well, and I came back through with this ruler and drew a straight line in between each letter so that I could cut them out in a nice straight line. The paper in all of those multi-packs are just a little bit different, but you should be able to find some white paper or cardstock in there that you can use for this project. These pieces of paper were the perfect size to fit these letters on them, with a nice space left on the top and the sides of each letter. Next, I went ahead and cut apart all of my letters along that penciled line. If you would like to, you can add some hooks to the back of these wood pieces to attach them to your wall, or you can simply use command strips and put them wherever you would like. I used some wall mounting strips to attach them to the wall. Once they're in place, you can start placing your letters onto the wood piece and space them out. As you can see here, the happy fills that 10 inches of space. So if you were to do a longer word than 5 letters, you would probably need a longer board piece on your wall. Here's how that project turned out. And this is a project that I've been wanting to do for a while now, so I'm glad to finally have it put together, and I think it has a lot of possibilities for all of the seasons. Next, we're going to put together a very simple light DIY. You'll need one of these metal hanging plant brackets. Now, I have a few of these on hand for DIYs. I understand that they might not be easy to find this time of the year. And then you'll also need one of these round gold baskets. I've seen these come in and out of my stores. And then also one of these hanging lights. Now, there's some other options that you could use for a light there in the store as well. Just look in the aisle that has those night lights. I'm going to be painting everything with a matte black color. I want it all to just blend together. And so for this light, I removed that bulb piece, and then I wanted to fill in all of the areas that I didn't want to be spray painted black with some painter's tape. So I went ahead and did that. And then I'm first going to spray paint all of these pieces with some Rust-Oleum gray primer, and this will just help the paint to hold to the plastic, and it'll also just cover up that gold color a little bit so I can use less of my black paint. I did not use a primer on that black bracket piece since it was already black. I did also decide to cover up that white part on the top of the light here with some painter's tape as well. I was worried about the paint getting down in the trigger or inside of the light and messing the light up. To finish off this DIY, I'll be using this Rust-Oleum Ultra Matte Black color. This is one of my favorite ones. I really like the finish on it, but of course you can use any color that you would like to do this project. I didn't realize I was so low on this spray paint, so it was hard to get the whole thing covered. I'm glad that I used that primer first in order to cover up the gold color, but I was finally able to get a nice coat of black over all of these three pieces. Next, I pulled off the painter's tape from the light piece. You can go back through and paint over this white part if you would like to have it completely black or whatever color that you chose. And then next, I'm gonna go ahead and re-put back in those fairy lights into the bulb piece. Next, I removed the metal hanging piece from the top of this light. It just pops out on each side, and I'm going to use that to attach my light to the basket. So I just put it through the top of the basket and then re-put it back into the holes on the light. I went ahead and used a screw to attach this bracket to the wall. You can face it either way that you like. I went ahead and faced it down like this, and then you just go ahead and take your light and hook it right onto that end hook on the bracket. This project was so simple to put together. It was really just some paint and then assembling it. Of course, if you are going to be leaving it in whatever place you put it on the wall, then you'll want to add that second screw on the back. Mine was going to be moving someplace else, and so I didn't want to add two unnecessary holes to the wall, but I love how this turned out. This next DIY is really simple. You'll be using one of these white microfiber cloths that you can find in the automotive section at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to be using hot glue to put this together, but honestly, I think it would be easier to sew, whether you have a sewing machine and want to just sew really quickly along those seams, or even hand sew it with a needle and thread. I do think that it would be simpler to put together than using hot glue. You could also take two of the cloths and sew them together to make a longer or larger pillow, but because of the oblong shape of it, I thought it might be easier just to use one and make a pillow that's just a little bit smaller. Once I finished gluing all of those edges and then reversed the pillow, I just used some stuffing from the inside of a Walmart pillow that you can get for $2.50. I keep those on hand for making pillows, and so I just used some of that, but of course you could find something there at Dollar Tree to stuff this with as well. Once it is all stuffed, you'll just use some hot glue just to finish that edge off and glue it closed. I did fold the edges under and add the glue so that you don't see any of that edge, I guess, sticking out along the end of the pillow. It's folded over and it looks like a normal sewed seam. This is one of the tough parts when it came to putting this together with hot glue, where I do think it would be easier to use a needle and thread instead. And here's how the finished pillow turned out. I really love the softness of this. I think it's great for any cooler weather. It's a nice warm touch to add for fall or for winter. And as soon as I put it on my chair, my cat was immediately there laying next to it, so she approves as well. For the last project today, you'll need some of this banner art paper. It's in the teaching section. You might also find it in the wallpaper section, but it looks kind of like a birch tree type pattern. I like the white and the gray together. And so I'm going to cut off a section large enough to cover 2 books. I don't like to paint books or rip off their covers or anything. And so I'm just going to be covering these with this paper. And I was able to use 1 long strip to cover both of the books that I have. I just folded it in half and then was able to use half of it for each of the books. What you need to cut off is going to completely vary depending on the size of your books. These are books that I picked up at a thrift store because they are cheaper there than picking up something at Dollar Tree. I also like to pick up books that I actually have a use for rather than just picking up random books that nobody in my house will ever read. To cover these, I wanted them to have a nice clean edge, so I did fold it into the correct size of the book on both sides, and then I folded it underneath the back cover and then the front, and as you can see, it leaves a nice edge on the side and it doesn't look like you cut it off. I love this sheet of rub-on stickers because it has so many different words. And of course, this is another one of those DIYs that you could do all year long. And I think it's a great one for farmhouse decor as well. So I'm going to be putting the words on here, welcome home. But you could do any combination of words that you like. You could also just get some rub-on letters from Dollar Tree and spell out maybe your family's name or spell out really just any wording that you would like to put on the end of these books. When using rub-on letters, it's very important just to take your time and make sure that you rub down all of those edges really well with a credit card or your fingernail, or I also like to use a popsicle stick. Those all work really well to get these letters off of this film paper. Just peel the paper off very slowly from these. That way, if one of the edges isn't down or completely transferred to the paper, then you can just fold it back over and continue pushing it down. I paired this DIY with a little bead garland and a candle from Dollar Tree, and I just really love the way that it looks. I think it would be a great addition to an end table or a coffee table, just really anywhere in your home to make it a little bit more cozy for fall. I hope that you all have enjoyed today's Dollar Tree DIYs, that this video was helpful for you. Let me know down in the comments which of these DIYs was your favorite, or maybe one that you intend to try making for yourself. Thank you again for watching today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!